Hey guys, so 2 weeks ago I had a giveaway and now here are the giveaway winners. Thank you to everyone who entered and subscribed and watched my videos. Thank you for supporting my channel. And also 350,000 subscribers, that's pretty cool. If you are one of the winners, then go to the description and scroll down to the bottom for how to claim your prize. For everyone else, better luck next time, and if you missed the giveaway, make sure you subscribe so you can see when the next one comes out. And now onto the Q&A. Do you think cubing has affected you? Yeah? I don't know why I picked this question because it just sounded so funny to me. I have 6 turns per second, but I average 18. You should put a video on this. No. If you have 6 TPS and you average 18, that means you're doing 108 moves per solve. Now you might be thinking, I don't do 108 moves per solve. That means you don't have 6 TPS. Why isn't the Petrus method for 3x3 discussed anymore? That's because it's bad. Okay, but seriously though, the reason it was discussed more in the past was because in the past it was better than it is now compared to the other methods. That's because speed cubing was actually different, and for example, cubes were bad, finger tricks were less developed, so it was really important to save moves, and Petrus is a very move efficient method. But the other side of that is that you had to think more during the solve, and nowadays if you try to turn at 10 turns per second, you can't really do Petrus with that turn speed. If both J-perms were not possible PLLs, what? You have created an impossible scenario and I am unable to fathom the consequences of this. How do you think we should or could bring in more people to the cubing community? And do you think we need more people in the community? I've always felt that cubing content could improve by having events that are more spectator friendly. In the past, I've talked about changing the way we do competitions, and we don't have to do that as there are other ways you can do events, whether it's like the Red Bull competitions or Speedcube Shop had that one event. Pretty much every large community based around a hobby or activity has some way for you to consume the content without actually engaging in it. So sometimes I want to play Smash Bros, but sometimes I also want to watch it. For cubing, the tutorials and product reviews have always been strong, but I feel like we've been kind of lacking in making the event spectator friendly. And do I think we need more people in the community? Where I live right now, there are a lot of people who cube, so if I want to find people to be friends with me and do this with me, it's not super hard. Now that isn't true for a lot of people around the world. There are a lot of people who may be like the only cuber in their city, or at least the only cuber that they know of in their city, and they don't get to have competitions around them. So I think a lot of people would say I don't really need the community to grow, but there are also a lot of people who really wish it did so they had people to cube with. I think overall growing the community would be really good. How do you get sub 40 memorization on 3 blind, and how do you get sub 40 second execution on 3 blind? For those of you unfamiliar with blindfolded, how memorization works is there's a letter for every sticker and you memorize a sequence of letters. Then you'd put them into pairs and turn those into words. For example, CT could be cat. It's really important to be familiar with your letter pairs, and it helps to choose the same word for each letter pair every time. For example, for CT, don't switch between cat and cute and crouton. Just use the same thing each time so you have more repetition with that. For execution, make sure you don't think too much before doing each algorithm and just try to go into it as fast as you can, even if you're slightly not sure of what you're supposed to do. Why is the GAN 330 not comp legal just because it has a hole in it? And can you talk about other stuff that would make cubes not comp legal? If you haven't seen my last video, I unboxed the GAN 330, which is a 30mm keychain cube. To completely answer this question, it's read the WCA regulations, but the general guideline is don't have a cube that gives you an unfair advantage. The unfair advantage of having a hole in one of the pieces is when you see that hole, you know what the piece is right away without having to look at any other part of that piece. And that goes against the spirit of regular solving, which is looking at the colors, not looking at something else like a hole in the cube. A few other examples of things that can make a cube not legal in competition is having stickers that are way too damaged, or having a damaged piece where you can see the damage, or having a logo on a corner sticker. This is actually why stickerless cubes were banned for a long time, because if you do a 45-degree turn, you can see more colors than you should be able to. Eventually they decided it wasn't a big deal, and now we can use stickerless cubes, so it's all good. Would you rather get a PLL skip or a J-perm? Obviously, PLL skip because it's faster. I made you think that I was going to say J-perm, messing with your mind there. If you couldn't use CFOP, would you use RU? Yes, RU and CFOP are the two best methods. I don't know which one's better, but if you take away CFOP, then RU's the best one. And would you make tutorials for RU also? The reason I made my channel in the first place was not to be on YouTube, and I wasn't even cubing that much. It's more like I had watched a lot of cubing content throughout the years, and I felt like in terms of tutorials, there were a lot of things that I thought maybe I could do a better job. Not that the tutorials out there were bad, but there were a lot of things that just weren't covered. So basically I saw something that I could do that could be important and help a lot of people. Now for RU, I wouldn't have felt that it would have helped as many people. I probably would have felt as if I was part of a small community, not as big of a community. So just being honest, that probably would have swayed my decision to not make the channel instead. And I think that's okay. If you don't think you have an idea that would be successful, then you should put your effort into something else you think would be. Very random question, what is the difference between a table and a desk? How big does a stool need to get before it's a table? We got a lot of things to think about. What's your favorite big cube? Also, I love your vids. Thank you. I feel like I can just never turn that fast on 7x7, so I really like 5 and 6. 5x5 is hard because I feel like to do well I have to like never pause, and on 6x6 I can't turn that fast, so not pausing is a little easier. So it kind of just depends how I'm doing. How many views or likes did you get on your first video a week after you uploaded it? My first video was 11 finger tricks every cuber should know. Let me tell you, it was really bad. Don't watch it. I can't remember, but after a week, I would say it had maybe around 60 views, and 20 of them were definitely from myself. Until your video hits a certain number of views, I think it just counts every single view as a separate one, even if it comes from the same person. It just doesn't care to check it in a more sophisticated way. If you've been on YouTube a long time, you might remember back when views used to get stuck at 301, and that's because after 300 views, it would start to check if every view was legitimate and not like bots or the same person. And my video definitely had at least 1 like because I liked it myself. For anyone learning something new, especially creatively, because it's like more subjective whether your work is good or not, when you start, there's always a gap between how good your work is and how good you think it is. And I was aware of that going into this, but I could not believe that I was okay with how blurry the video was and how horrible the audio was. I actually made 2 more videos that were just as bad as my first one in terms of the quality. I ended up taking them down because the topics were redundant with newer videos I had made that were way better, but I didn't take down my first video because it's my first video and I just want to keep it there. Can you solve the Giang keychain cube with 1 foot blindfolded for me? Okay, in theory that sounds possible, but if I do it, it's not going to be for you. If I, for some reason, go through that much trouble to achieve something, it's going to be for myself. Are there algorithms you can only do when you get the case in a solve, but can't do on the spot? Absolutely in the past, not anymore. The line OLL with 2 bars on the side, or what a lot of people call the Colin Burns OLL, I used to forget that one all the time. Like, it would come up in solves just fine, but then one day I'd really think about it and be like, what was the algorithm? And then I wouldn't be able to reproduce it, and then I'd be like, oh, well, I've been doing it in solves just fine, it'll be okay. And then I get it in a solve, and I do something that's not even an algorithm. That doesn't happen to me anymore because for a lot of my algorithms, I've had to write them down at some point for making a video about it. So for a lot of my algorithms, I had to think of them slowly at some point, which means I don't have to go fast in order to memorize it. But now that I'm doing a lot of blindfolded, I feel like there are some algorithms that I can only do when I'm not looking at the cube. If I need to cycle around 3 pieces, I visualize the cube in my head as like completely blank except for those 3 pieces. And if you made me look at the cube for some of these and focus on the pieces, I'd get really distracted because that's not what I'm visualizing in my head. How often should I learn new algs? So the idea when you learn algs or just new cases for anything is you want to drill it into your muscle memory to the point where you get very comfortable with them and don't have to think. But if you manage to get to a point where during your solves you can always just turn your brain off, then it makes it harder to pick up on new things like where else you could improve or be able to improve at things that are very specific, like some cases for look ahead or algorithms that don't come up very often. One of the ways to keep your brain more active is just to learn more algorithms and then be on the lookout for those in your solves. So I would say anytime you're not learning something new, it really helps to learn new algorithms. The algorithms themselves may not be super useful, but the process of learning will help you more than you might imagine. What's your favorite color? Purple is objectively the best one and I will unsubscribe immediately if it's not purple. My favorite color is green, and green is objectively the best color because your eyes are actually designed to see green better than other colors. Are there any reasons you dislike the Thunderclap V3 besides the feeling being similar to Evolve Power? You can generally tell if I'm not going to like a cube if when you do corner cuts, it's like a big snap no matter how small the corner cut is. Those really annoy me because my turning is not always like this consistent amount of accuracy, which means in the same part of the same alg, sometimes I'll corner cut a lot, sometimes I won't, and I want them to feel as similar as possible. If sometimes I get a giant snap and sometimes I don't, then the amount of force I have to apply completely changes. I don't understand how people get so used to that because I've always hated it so much, but I mean, if it works for you, that's fine because it's just more cubes that you can use that I can't, so I wish I could like it as well. Unfortunately, I don't like it. Tutorial for setting up your cube. Okay, everyone who has a question about cubing right now has to type it into the YouTube search bar and see if you find it because I have a video on this. And I also have a video on a lot of things you guys asked me about. So that's it for this Q&A, and if you want to listen to more, maybe you're just cubing and want something to listen to, then check out the link in the description for a playlist of all my Q&As. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.